Hello, welcome to Building SaaS with Python and Django. I'm Matt Lehman, I'm your streamer. I'm a software engineer who does a lot of Python development, and we work on a Django app here. I teach you things that I know about building web applications. The goal of this is mostly about teaching. So if you have any questions, shoot them over that way in the chat. You can also follow me on YouTube, Twitch, whatever. If you catch this on YouTube in the future and you want to catch me live, you can follow me on Twitch, and I'll let you know when I'm streaming. But it's typically on Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Tonight we're going to be working on an account deactivation flow for the app that I build. We've been working on this for a couple streams, and we're getting close to the end. There's just a few more pieces that are in play. Last week's stream, we worked on deactivating a Stripe subscription, so canceling the subscription with the Stripe service, which is what I use to do recurring billing. So that piece is done, and we're going to be working from this GitHub issue, which I'm recording all of the pieces that are needed to get the full account deactivation flow. And so remaining to do is a deactivated page, and then logging out the user when they successfully deactivate, and handling what should happen after they're done to make sure that they can't get back into the service and get it for free if they try to attempt to log in. So I thought today we could start with the deactivated page, just kind of give an endpoint, a finality to this, and then build out from that station. So we're going to jump over to our code, and I haven't committed since last time, so there's still some from last week, which the last thing that we worked on was the actual form save. So we have a Django form. I guess one call out that I want to mention is last week I discussed handling internal errors. So what happens if Stripe throws an error? We don't want the site to blow up in front of the user, but at the same time we want to be able to report a problem. So we threw a custom exception, this conductor error that's down here, if there's a problem with Stripe, any problem at all, because it's a problem that needs to be handled. And then we provide a message to the user to say, hey, something went wrong, contact support to get it fixed, because you're trying to deactivate your account, and that's not good news. But the piece that was missing is I didn't know how to still collect what actually failed from Stripe and get it into my error reporting. So I didn't know the API at the time. I went up and looked it up after the stream was over, and I'm a rollbar user. So turns out rollbar makes this super easy. So if you're in an exception block, you can do this report exec info, which will implicitly call sys.exec info or whatever the thing is to collect the traceback information, and that will send that off to rollbar. So it should transmit that information appropriately when you have an error. The way this was connected is I used Python 3's from exception feature. Let's see if I can back up to show you what I'm talking about. Well, let's just go to the actual code. So, no, it was in the forms. If we go to our deactivate form, no, it was in the gateway. Sorry, I'll get there, I promise. So we have our cancel subscription, and we're catching the most generic Stripe error that could be happening, which is this. And in Python 3, a feature that was added later along in Python 3 that's not part of Python 2 is using the from keyword here, so that if you're raising a new error from a different error, that whole traceback is aggregated together. So when I am submitting information to rollbar, it's not terribly useful if all I did was submit that there was a conductor error. I really need the Stripe information to tell me what was really the problem. So this from exception line here, or rest of the line, will be critical to actually making the report to rollbar useful. So that's where we ended last week, and we need to get back to the view. And I've got a couple to-dos in here, the same kind of stuff that's in GitHub. But right now we're hard coding this to redirect to the dashboard, which is just not wrong. I just needed a placeholder to kind of indicate that somewhere would happen that's different from the settings page on an error state. So what I really want to have happen here is this needs to go to a deactivated, if I need to spell it right too, deactivated route. And that doesn't exist yet, but that is where we need to go. So I'm going to leave it like that, and then we're going to go ahead and write a test for this. So test success, we have, we already have that it's asserting the location of the redirect. So let's do deactivated here, and that would be the passing test. But right now this is going to fail because we don't have that view yet. So it's going to say, I looked up deactivated and that URL does not exist. So you need to do something about that. So let's go to the URLs file and fix that. The deactivated page is going to be an unauthenticated page because part of this process of deactivation is logging a user out so that they no longer have access to their previous dashboard. And so it can be a pretty dumb page in a lot of ways. We're going to put it as a template view, and where should we put that? So I kind of have, here we go. I guess I've got a comment hint for myself here that this is where we want marketing and non-authenticated views. So these are sort of grouped in a way that sign up. These are sort of related things that we need. And this stops being true down around here. So I should probably put a little blank because these things are all authenticated views. And I have a deactivate view. That is the action that the settings, when we actually click the button to deactivate, that's what's calling this view. And that's not what we want. So we want the like past tense if you've already done it. So let's come up to the bottom here of the non-authenticated stuff, and we'll say, we'll put it right here at the bottom, and this is just going to be deactivated, like so. And I want to do a template view as view, and the template name, don't really need to, well, we could put this in an accounts area because this is related to accounts, and I have an accounts app, so that seems fitting where this view is coming from. And we'll call this deactivated HTML, and then I guess we need a name. The name is deactivated. So I think I expect the test will still fail. Oops. Ah, I see. So it was Black's formatting that did this. So we'll put a comment here so that Black will not try and collapse this again. So we'll say authenticated views. That's what was happening. It's still trying to collapse it, but that's fine. At least we now have a separator to know why. I didn't actually know why those were grouped together before, but Black is auto-formatting that. So we have our deactivated page that is going to be just a generic template view, doesn't require any authentication, and that should be enough. So coming back to that test, I think this will still fail because what's going to happen is the template view is going to try and instantiate, and that deactivated template doesn't exist yet. So oh, no, okay. Maybe it's because it's not trying to actually execute it. It's fine. So it's just doing a redirect. So that's okay. So maybe we need a test to prove that you can get a 200 on that page. So let's come back. Let's take this guy, and we're gonna now do test deactivated, and our test is going to be pretty dumb. We're going to test that it's just okay. So we need a request. The request factory, it doesn't need to be authenticated. And so a simple get request should do the trick. And I guess we can use the client. Do I have a client? I don't know that I have a client attached to this. Oh, good. So in that case, since we're using the client, which is something that Django has as a testing tool, which does kind of what it sounds like. It's just it's doing web requests basically. And in fact, I need to do a get like that. So we're doing a get request, and we are going to do it on the deactivated page, like so. And it's going to give us a response, and we want to assert that the response is a 200. And this doesn't test the content of the deactivated page, but it proves that the page is at least wired properly. And so this should fail right now because we have not defined the template. Let's see if we're right. Yeah, it doesn't even get to the response because it says the template doesn't not exist. So let's go to the templates area. And yeah, see there's an accounts in here. And I'm trying to think of what I want to copy it from. I don't really want to use this sign up template. I want something super basic, because the deactivated page, the message that I want to put on there is a polite message, but essentially it's a message telling people, sorry to see you go. If you want to be reactivated, you're going to need to contact support to reactivate your account. Because I'm not going to go through a flow right now of letting people log in, access their some version of their account, and sign themselves back up. I don't feel like dealing with that at the moment because I have low traffic. So we need a pretty simple page, and I'm trying to think of what would be a good fit. Let's take a look at the actual College Conductor site and see if I can find one that I like. So let's look at the privacy page. Nah, that's a bit too legalese. So I probably want sort of a box that says here's what's going on. So maybe something more like the login page. Like if there was just a box that was like this, but it wasn't, instead of a form, it had kind of a message that just said your account is now deactivated. That's probably sufficient. So let's see if we can find that login page. Which, where does it get put? Where did I put that? Here it is. I'm going to yank all this information so we can copy it. Come into accounts, do deactivated .html. I'm going to paste this in here. For the moment, I don't care what the content is. Run the test. It passes now, which it wasn't doing before. That's good news. And then we're going to come over here and we're going to mess around with the deactivated page until we're happy with it. So I want to get off of the actual production site and jump over to localhost. And this is a kind of view that will be hiding in plain sight, but it won't be linked to anything. So it's not like Google is going to crawl this and find this page. So it's okay that, you know, if someone happened to come to my deactivated page, it's not going to bother me. So let's go to the template. And the rest of this is just sort of messing with the template. So we have we want to change this to count deactivated. Refresh. Yep, that's the title up at the top. And then we can come down into the core of this thing. And we don't need this form error stuff because there's not going to be a form. We'll change the tag to say account deactivated. In fact, let's do, trying to remember, in my titling, I'm trying to remember if I do just the first word is capitalized. I think that's the case, so maybe I should be consistent. Yes, yeah, to be consistent with the styling of the site, I'm going to use a lowercase d. And we want to take out this stuff, and let's just check it out. So account, and let's be a little friendlier than this account deactivated. Sounds very robotic. We'll say your account is deactivated. We can use English, why not? Oh, maybe not. Not wide enough. About a little bit wider. Okay. And then we want to give the pros a copy, I guess, that tells them two things. That tells them, you know, you're not going to get charged again. So your subscription has been canceled, or your subscription to College Conductor was canceled successfully. Okay. And then reassure them that they're not going to be charged. You will not receive any future charges on your account. How does that look? Okay. And then we'll tell them, if you wish to reactivate your account, please contact support. And this is this page down here, but we can send them that way. So make it super easy. Although, do I care? Is someone deactivated? Or the probability that they're going to click a contact support page right at that moment is like so low that I don't think it's worth having a link. It's kind of a saying like it almost feels to me like saying you're really dumb. Why did you do this? You need to do this right now to come back. So leave it at that, and then, you know, treat people like adults. That if they want to do it, they can. It's not going to be a far-fetched to see, here's contact support, here's contact. I think that'll be okay. So maybe we'll have one more thing of we are sorry to see you go. And we'll give them a sense of time. Your account is now deactivated. Okay. I think it's a simple enough message. The college connector rated stage in development is a pretty it's a low traffic thing. It doesn't have a lot of people trialing, so I think that this is a kind of MVP approach to account deactivation. So I do want to offer it though, because I do have there is a trial going on, and I want to give people the chance to have something to see and not be like offered this horrible experience. So it's kind of good enough for now. So I think with our page done and our views file here, so we've got it successfully going to deactivated. And as you could see from the way this ran, well, actually, let's confirm just for clarity. I'm now logged out, but the deactivated page is still available, which is what we want, because logging out will be part of this process. So we have a deactivated page, and we're ready to move on to these other bits that are along the way. So there are two other things that need to happen here. We're doing this to do, so that's done. Let's go back up over to the GitHub issue. And if you have any questions about the deactivation workflow and the way I'm approaching it at any time, let me know. I'm happy to go into like my thought process behind it. I wanted to keep something fairly simple. I don't think it's an overly complex flow, but there's still a lot of pieces in play, so it may not be super clear. So we've got the create deactivated page, and we're going to log them out when it's done. And I was looking, so I'm using the Django contrib auth system, which is the default authentication system, and I knew that this logout option existed, and I didn't know its form. I didn't know if I wanted to put the logout in the form save, or if I wanted to put it in the view. But after seeing the API for this function takes an actual request object. I thought it might take a user, but it doesn't. It takes a request. So that tells me that rather than putting it in the form save, I really need to put it in, like, guess right where the to-do is. I need to call logout on the request. And according my read through the documentation is logout doesn't throw any errors if there is a problem. So like this shouldn't be a problem anyway, because we're already verifying that this person is authenticated, but this should be a pretty safe operation. I don't need to catch any real exceptions here. So I'm trying to think what kind of test we can do here. So coming back to our file, we're testing success. We're testing mocked out stripe, because it's going to call form save. That's fine. And in our success path, we need another assertion. So I'm trying to think of if the request, this view is passing in a request object, which has a user attached to it. And if logout is going to work on that request object, I would speculate that the user attached to the request object, we can check is authenticated in down here. So here we should be able to let's do this really briefly. So assert, and I don't usually like putting assertions at the front part of the test, because I feel like it muddies what the test is trying to do. But let's check is authenticated. That's true. And actually, I want to make sure that's a property, is authenticated, and not a function. It's an attribute. In older versions, this was a method. Okay, that was a very important thing, because it used to trip people up. It used to be a method, so methods in Python are always truthy. So because it was a method and some people would treat it like a property or an attribute, it would return true even when that was false. So it was kind of dangerous, but they fixed up the API on that. It was an API warp, basically. So here, I think my real thing that I want to do is test that the user is no longer authenticated. In other words, they're logged out after this happens. And this, let's get rid of that assert because we know that's true beforehand. So the precondition is true. And this will fail on the other side because we haven't called logout yet. So we're going to come up to, okay, that's at the auth level. So there's login and logout. We're going to call logout. Actually, are there any other logouts in here? No, good. On the request. And so now, if we run the test, interesting. So this test expects a session. I think I can get away with that. I added an attribute to my request factory. I think I called it with session. So let's go over to the test case. No, request factory. Just check on that. Nope, I just called it session. So not with session, but session. All right, let's try it again. Okay, good. So that assertion of being false did what we wanted to. I have a feeling now, though, that I probably, by calling logout here, I might have broken other tests in this test case. Oh, no, I didn't, because this is the only one that tests the success path. So it's the only one that's going to require the session because it's the only one getting all the way through from the top to the bottom. Okay, so cool. That was really easy from that perspective. Didn't know if that was going to be harder or not, but it turns out not to be the case. So now we're down to this last bit of what we have to do. And I was reading in advance of the session tonight to figure out what Django is going to do by default. And so coming back to the Django contrib auth documentation here, we have, I just searched for active, and active only appears in a few places. So the user model from Django contrib auth has this isActive flag. And importantly, well, let's do a search for isActive. I think that was the better one. Here it is. So it says the login required decorator does not check isActive flag on the user, but this is the important bit. The default authentication backends, which I'm using, reject inactive users. So if I turn on, if I set a user to not active and log them out in the view at the same time, it should effectively lock them out of the system. They'll be at the deactivated page so that they know that if they try logging in again, that it's not going to work and they can contact support. That should be evident. But I think these two things in tandem should be enough to make sure that someone can't get back into the application after things are done. So I think the right place to do that, to actually set that user's account to inactive, is on the form saving, the deactivate form. So we're going to leave the test views and come into the test forms, and leave the views file, come into the forms file. And so here we have save. And one part about this form is that the user is attached as with the self attribute from when the form is created. So we have access to the form, to the user in the form. So again, I'm going to do a quick assertion that's assert true that user is active. That's the precondition. Just verify, sanity check. Although most of the time I'm pretty confident that that's the case. And it is true. So the other thing I want to do, I'm going to update the doc string as well. So the user subscription gets canceled and the user is marked inactive. That's what we care about. And so let's change this to false. So we probably need to do a refresh from DB. Okay, so we have a failing test. Let's come into the form save method, and we're going to take the user and set is active to false, and then save the user. Run our test. Cool. Okay. So I want to do, I think that's all the code. I guess I should preface. Let's run it through some type check. So all the type checks are passing. Test suite still all passing. So things are looking pretty good. I feel good about this. So I want to do a few things now. So we're getting close to the end of this feature, and if you're back from previous sessions, this feature is behind a feature flag. So what is in the settings? Let's get back to turning this stuff on so we can see it all. Let's log in. So we put this whole feature behind a feature flag. So this deactivate account section does not appear unless a flag is activated. So there's a bunch of steps that I want to do along the way. I want to do a basic verification that the deactivation flow works. So we'll probably create a user really quickly that we can log in as, and try it all out. And then we push it up to production, and we turn on the flag, and we see that it should be working. That's the hope. So I think the best place to probably do this is on the staging environment, which has Stripe connected. But in order to do that, I need to do a deploy. So let's look through the diff before we commit this. We set our user to inactive by changing the isActive flag to false. We tested the save, and it cancels the subscription and sets the user to false. So those are the two actions that it takes. Our tests for the views are now doing a deactivated page rather than trying to redirect back to the dashboard. That's good news. And we test the failure case of what happens when there's a problem. So that case is basically that the exception is caught. It's reported to rollbar, which we've mocked out in this test. It redirects back to the settings, and that there's a message that gets sent to the user saying that there was a problem. And then we did a quick sanity check on the deactivated page to just assure that the template is there and that we can get a 200 response from that. The views are here, where we took out all these to-dos that were part of the deactivation flow, and we saved our form, we caught errors, we reported problems. This is essentially the other half of the test, the actual production code. And if everything was valid, we log the user out and then redirect them to the deactivated page. And then that should be done. They should be done with this system. We created a deactivated page to actually give a place to go. So that's all that stuff. So let's commit this code. And this time, I'm gonna check this, and we're gonna say that complete deactivation flow, and this fixes issue 372. Fix is a nice little shortcut that you can put in GitHub that will automatically close an issue if you include that. There's some other, I think you can do closes, you can do some other variants of that. I don't remember what they all are, but I use fixes. So we commit that stuff and we push it up to GitHub. I use some aliases, so that's what GP is, git push. Okay, and I think Vagrant is still up, but confirm. Let's confirm. Vagrant is where I do my staging site, and it does either came up really quickly or it already was up. So let's do a provision. And this should take a minute or two. So what's happening is the code that we just pushed to GitHub is now being deployed to this virtual machine, and we can go to the virtual machine. I still have a test Stripe account that is active. So if we go in there and log into the Stripe account and try and deactivate it, hopefully everything will go well. So while that's running, let me try and log into Stripe. Okay, so here's the Stripe dashboard with the test data. And customers, let's see if we still have one. So I have this one, but did I cancel the subscription on it? I don't remember. I did. Okay, rats. So we'll just create a new customer, because this is test data, it doesn't really matter. So I think what I must have done is use this customer to cancel the subscription in the last episode. I forgot about that. So we'll create a Stripe test2 customer and go through the whole process of getting their account deactivated. We'll verify that it is here in the dashboard. And once it's verified, then we'll actually go through the deactivate flow and see if it behaves like we want it to. If it does, then I will do a deployment to production, and we'll go into the flag admin dashboard, and we'll go turn it on and see how it looks. And then we'll probably wrap up for the day. Okay, we are done with the deployment. Let's go to the conductor test site. And I'm currently logged in as, there is an interesting thing. I don't know who I'm logged in as. So that's something I want to fix. So give UI indicator of who is logged in. I want to put the username somewhere if you're logged in, maybe next to dashboard or something like that. Just some kind of clue. That should be a pretty easy one. Because I think right now I'm logged in as Stripe test, but I don't know. So the first thing I'm going to do though is sign in as the admin, because I'm pretty sure that I don't have that flag turned on. Let's go to the settings. Like, yeah, there's no deactivate turned on. It's not on the staging site. So we're going to go to the admin, and this is going to be the same process that I'm going to use for the production site as well. So you'll see it twice. Where I went to the place where feature flags are defined. I'm using Django Waffle, and I'm going to add a flag, and the flag name is deactivate flag, and I want to turn it on for everyone and save that. So now the deactivate flag is on for everyone. You can go back to the site, go back to the dashboard, check the settings, and there it is. Cool. So I've got my dummy email address in here, and yeah, everything's good. So let's do a sign up. We'll do Stripe test 2 and Stripe test 2 at nowhere.com. We'll give it a password and a fake credit card, which for Stripe is just a bunch of 42s on repeat. So you can just keep typing 424242 until you're done. We'll create the free trial. All right, neat. So we have, if I refresh, there should be a Stripe test 2 account, or a customer, I should say. And there is. Okay, so someone did that by accident, whatever, and they want to get out of here. They look for how to deactivate. The most obvious place would be their settings. Here's their deactivate account. We give them this message that says, if you deactivate, we'll halt your subscription. You won't be charged. That's reassuring. We tell them in advance that here's how you're going to reactivate if you want to. And we give a simple barrier so people don't do this by accident, but this is a copy paste kind of thing where we're just putting the email that is on file with the account. So here's the moment of truth. When we hit deactivate, does the validation happen? It goes to the save. It should cancel the subscription at Stripe. Actually, I guess before we do that, let's come in here and make sure there is a subscription. So, yep, there's a subscription. So it should cancel the subscription at Stripe. It should log out the user, dump them to the deactivated page. So this dashboard and logouts should go away, and it should become login and sign up again. And that should be all the behavior. Let's click deactivate and see what happens. So great, we got to the deactivated page. That's encouraging. It looks like we're logged out because we're being prompted to log in again. And let's refresh customer's account page. And there it is, cancel the subscription. So that seems like success to me. Since that is successful, I'm going to go ahead and deploy it. So it's the same kind of process. This will take a little bit longer because instead of connecting over localhost, it's now doing an actual SSH connection to the remote server where college conductor lives. And yeah, we'll go to college conductor in a minute to activate the flag. I will log in. I'll be logged in with my admin account, at least go to the settings page and see that that setting's there. I'm not going to test it with my admin account because I don't want to deactivate that account on the production site. That would be foolish. But I'm pretty confident that the feature worked, which is exciting. So I guess while that's wrapping up with the deploy, we can talk through the set of steps that we went through to do this whole feature. To start off with, I wanted to start at the user experience level. So we actually started with that chunk of dialogue in the settings. This is not a fancy form, but it's not an inelegant form either. It's in its simplicity. It conveys what it needs to get the message across that here's what you're about to do. It doesn't make it hard to deactivate, but it doesn't make it so that you can accidentally do it. So those are all important things to me. I didn't want people like clicking this button by mistake and then calling me support, asking for help of like, why can't I get back into my accounts? Something has gone wrong. So that was the design of this form. Then once we had the form in place, like we really didn't do anything fancy with this form. It was pure HTML markup that didn't connect to anything. We then went into and created the view that this thing would talk to. That view was a post-only view that was only accessible to authenticated users, so no one else can randomly log you out. And on top of that, there's additional protections that because you have to supply the email, you have to know the email that's associated with that account. So if I was logged in, you were logged in, I couldn't log you out because my email address is not going to match your email address if we both had accounts on College Conductor. So there's some safeguards against people logging each other out, deactivating other accounts. If someone was that nefarious, which would be ridiculous, but possible, I guess. So at least that protection is there. So we have the form that does that. The form process went through and canceled the subscription at Stripe, which it made a Stripe API call. In that process of doing the Stripe API call, we talked about custom error handling and how to make sure that the experience for the user in the event of an error is, nobody likes getting errors and dealing with that, but at least they wouldn't get this page that says, oh, we messed up badly and don't know what to do. It's essentially a guarded error that we're actually thought through and are making sure that they're going to get taken care of, because not only are they told to contact support, so I would know immediately, but also the error message was sent off to the error tracking service, so I'd be able to correlate the failure and be able to say right off the bat, oh yeah, I'm so sorry, I see in the backend information that we have that Stripe was some part of Stripe was down, or there was a network failure, and I'm totally happy to resolve that. We can get this resolved, because I don't want people walking away from account deactivation with this really bad, terrible experience. And once the Stripe half of the equation was resolved, then we moved on to the College Conductor half, which is making sure that the account gets locked out, that the user is marked as inactive, so that they can no longer access the service unless they specifically request to get back in. So that's the entirety of the feature, and our deployment is done. Let's go over to the live site. I'm going to log in with my long credentials, and I'm going to check over here and see there's no deactivated section here yet because we haven't created the flag. So the thing to do now is to go into the admin and add in a deactivate flag, and we want to turn this on for everybody. Now, if I had like a large user base, which I don't, maybe I'd want to phase out or not phase out, roll out, do the phasing of this flag in stages, but I don't. So we're just going to turn on globally and then verify on the site that it is there. Great, it is. So that also covers the whole story of feature flags, except for one bit. So the feature flags are useful for being able to toggle this on and off. Like if I wanted to, actually, let's just do it just to show the benefit of this. Say I really goofed and one of my users comes in and says, and deactivation itself is probably a bad idea, but let's think about a feature that is generally useful but is not going to cancel somebody's account. And they try out the feature and notice a horrible bug that causes them a really bad experience, but I have other users and I don't want to have more people come in. And using the feature flag system, I could say, oh, that's really bad. Let's do this. You know, if we go backwards and turn the feature off, now I'll come back to here and the feature flag is off over here. So if we refresh the page, like it goes away. So the feature that was maybe causing a problem in production for other users, you can turn it off. You can then have yourself, or if you have engineers working for you, whatever your system is, go in and taking the data of what the user experience was that caused a failure, go in and fix it and make sure that it gets fixed properly, and then come back in and turn it on again. That is the true value of flags, is that they give you this ability to toggle stuff, which is super cool. If you didn't do that, let's think about the process if you weren't using a flag system. If you weren't using a flag system, you'd roll out your feature. And the pitfall of a flagless system is what happens when your user comes in and says, hey, this thing doesn't work. Same scenario as just a second ago. It doesn't work. Something is wrong. What can I do? You don't have the ability to, in an instant, turn the feature off. So you might have other users encounter that same error along the way who are going to pile on and maybe become dissatisfied customers. Because, you know, a customer that doesn't even know a feature exists yet, like hasn't seen it, hasn't used it, they're not going to feel any animosity towards you. But a customer who sees a new feature and tries it out and it's broken is not going to be super happy. So this gives you that control there, because in that scenario where you don't have a flag system, you have to suddenly either scramble to fix it as fast as possible and just apologize to people as they start hitting this problem, or you have to have a rollback strategy to roll your code back. And if you're in a complex enough system, there might be other things that have gone into that release. So flags let you have a finer granularity to roll things out when they're ready. This becomes even more important as your team gets larger and you're integrating a lot of code in, and you want to control when things are seen to your users. That's the whole benefit of a feature flag system. But to close the loop on a feature flag, there are plenty of flags that you might want to leave in forever, like maybe a third-party integration, like for example, what's an obvious example? Let's say you're trialing a new third-party service like Mixpanel, which is tracking user actions on your site and doing that sort of analytics. And you're not sold on Mixpanel. What you could do is put Mixpanel behind a flag so that you can quickly toggle the service on or off. And having that ability to toggle that gives you the flexibility of, if you decide to go for it, that it's good. Or maybe you have different environments, like a QA environment where you actually don't want Mixpanel on, having a flag system where you can turn that off for quality assurance purposes, because that data would just junk up your analytics. You could do that. But in large, while flags can be used for that purpose, flag systems like this are more meant for rolling out of features. So when you are satisfied with a flag, you should go through the process of cleaning it up, because if you look through the code, and let's do this. If we search for deactivate flag, that's what we'd name this flag. Now this is, thankfully this one's only in one place. Let's close that. So, but it is an extra, essentially, it looks like a conditional. It causes an extra level of indentation, and we have this flag thing. So this seems fine for now since it's just one flag, but imagine you wanted to put another flag inside of here, like you wanted to play with the copy and you wanted to do like an A/B test. Then you have another flag in here. And imagine you have another flag that's down here that's testing an extra attribute on the form. You're testing that out. So feature flag systems that are left untamed become a cluttering and a nesting of conditional type of logic. So I think what I want to do to finish off the whole feature and complete the life cycle of this is to make the fairly straightforward modification of, we are done with this flag. I'm going to delete that and make it a permanent part of the production code. So flag or no flag, this will always be there, because this is not one of those features that needs to be selectively controlled, like a mixed panel kind of thing. So we removed the flag, and since we're not using any sort of flag in here, we can now delete the load of waffle tags, which makes flag available. And so that's a small bit of cleanup that will get the flag out of the system. And that is good enough to commit. So I'm going to add that to the stage and say remove deactivate flag. Okay, that really closes out the whole deactivate flow. That's everything we intended to do. There are little bits that I'm not sure if I'm going to do this on stream or not, but I can maybe show it off next time. I have a part of my process that I mentioned in the sign up. Let me show it. In the sign up, I indicate to anyone who signs up that we will, I think I indicate here. I put it in here. Here it is. So my SaaS app asks for a credit card up front, does a trial, because I don't want to do the freemium model, and I don't want to have a high load for people who are trying it out, who have no intention of actually providing a credit card, never paying for the service. And by having that bit of hurdle, it does reduce dramatically the number of people who come in to do a trial. And I'm okay with that, because the point is to get people who are qualified enough to says, I'm willing to try this and put a credit card down, knowing that I have a month to try it out and cancel. An important aspect of that, though, is telling people, that the trial is coming close to an end. So see at this bottom paragraph, and it will not let me highlight that, but you can see at this bottom paragraph that I tell people, 3 days before your trial is about to be over, I'll email you letting know, hey, we're going to charge you soon if you have enjoyed the service and want to continue using it. If not, go over to the settings page and you can deactivate your account. So I haven't actually hooked that up yet, so I got to make good on that, because I have an active trial who's getting close to that window, and I don't want to be untruthful. This was a minimum viable product. It was a decent claim that I could make, knowing that I would honor that if I got someone trialing. So since I'm in a position to do that, I'm going to work with the email service that I use, which is Drip. And Drip connects to Stripe, and Stripe is connected to has the subscription. So I can go into Drip and connect it to a Stripe event, for when the trial is ending. I'm pretty sure that's configurable. And then send out the email that says, hey, go to your account settings page if you wish to deactivate. Otherwise, we're going to charge you at the when the trial's over, and get you, paying for the service and getting value out of it. So I may do that this week. I don't remember how many days the trial that I have going has. So if it's less than the amount of time between now and next week, I need to do that. But if it's not, I might do this on stream, and we'll poke around at other aspects of a SaaS, because it's not always just about coding in Django and Python. There are other services that you use that you have to be comfortable with and get the best value out of. And I can show you at least one of them. Drip is a really cool tool. Yeah, I think that's probably about it. So that'll wrap us up for tonight. This is something that if you found this useful, you can share it out on Twitter. I will also post this to YouTube like I do regularly. So if you want to refer back to anything that I said, you are certainly welcome to do that. If you found this useful, and I'd love to hear from you, find out what you liked about it. I'm on Twitter as mblayman. I'm also on GitHub. I'm also on a bunch of places as mblayman, so look for me around. And appreciate your feedback. Trying to think if there's anything else that needs to be said. Probably not. So that brings us to a close for the night. I appreciate you tuning in, and we'll catch you next week when we work on more SaaS development. Take care.